Hey everyone, and welcome. We're going to get you totally exam ready by tackling the complex topic of caste and politics. We're breaking down all the key points from your textbook right here, so let's jump straight in. All right, let's dive into it. Our HUD is locked and loaded with 5 key sections. We'll start by looking at what caste even means in India today, then see how politics uses caste, bust a big myth about vote banks, flip it around to see how caste uses politics, and finally, we'll ask, is this a force for good or ill? So, first things first, let's tackle the big question. In the 21st century, is caste still a thing? Why are we even talking about it? Well, the answer, as you'll see, is all in the data. Now, this is a question I bet a lot of you have been thinking about. It's kind of like the one in your textbook's cartoon, right? This idea that, hey, if we just stop talking about caste, maybe it'll just disappear. But to really get a grip on its role in politics, we first have to face its role in society. And here it is, the first major takeaway for your exams, and it's a big one. Even with all the massive changes in our country, urbanization, economic growth, you name it, caste has not gone away. Its influence is still very, very real in modern India. So what do we mean by caste hierarchy? Well, think of it just like this. A ladder. A social ladder where different groups are placed on different rungs. But what's absolutely crucial to understand is that this old social ladder is still directly linked to people's economic status, even today. Yeah, this isn't something from an ancient history book. We're talking about effects, advantages for some, disadvantages for others that are still being felt right now. The economic data shows this really clear line connecting someone's caste group to how well off they are. And wow, this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? Take a look at this data from the National Sample Survey Organization. In rural India, almost 46% of scheduled tribes are below the poverty line. Now compare that to the Hindu upper castes. It's less than 12%. That is a massive gap, and it just shows you how much this social structure still matters. Okay, so now that we've established that caste is still a major factor in society, let's switch gears. How does this reality play out in the world of politics? How does it actually show up when it's time for an election? Well, you'll see it pop up in a few key ways. For starters, when parties are picking candidates, you can bet they're looking at the caste makeup of that area. They also form governments that try to include people from different castes. And during campaigns, they'll often make direct appeals to caste feelings to get support. Pretty soon, you even get parties that become almost synonymous with certain communities. But hang on, all this talk about caste and politics can lead to a really common and kind of lazy assumption, the idea of a vote bank. So let's blow this myth wide open. Are elections really just about caste? Right, so this is what people usually mean by vote bank. It's this idea that an entire community, millions of people, all vote together like a single machine for just one party. But is that really what happens on the ground? Yeah, not even close. The reality is so much more complicated. And this is a huge point for your exams, so listen up. First off, there's no single constituency in the country where one caste has a total majority, so parties have to appeal to more than one group. Plus, voters aren't robots. They think about things like who the better leader is or which party they feel connected to. And here's the ultimate proof. Ruling parties and sitting MPs, they lose elections all the time. If these vote banks were real solid things, how could that happen? It couldn't. Okay, just a quick pause for a system update to help you guys ace those exams. If you want to master every single chapter just like this, do us a huge favor. Like, share, and definitely subscribe to the A1 Institute YouTube channel. Seriously, it's the best way to make sure you don't miss a thing. All right, and this is where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just a one-way street where politicians use caste. No, it goes the other way too. Caste groups themselves get into politics to make their voices heard and fight for what they need. And they do it through a pretty smart process. First, they think bigger. A group might bring in neighboring subcastes to grow their numbers. Then, step 2, they start talking and making deals with other communities to form a bigger coalition. And what's the result? You get these new political identities that you hear about all the time, these backward and forward blocks. Okay, so we're at our final section. We've seen how caste and politics mix. But is this a good thing or a bad thing for democracy? Let's look at both sides of the coin. Okay, so let's start with the good. For communities that were ignored or pushed to the margins for centuries, politics has been a lifeline. It gives them a real platform to stand up and demand their fair share of power. We're talking about groups like Dalits and OBCs getting a seat at the table, a voice in decision-making. It's about demanding basic dignity, resources, and a fair shot.
And in that way, you could argue it's actually made Indian democracy stronger.
But there's a flip side, and it's a serious one. When politics becomes only about caste identity, it can be really damaging. It can totally sidetrack us from other massive issues that affect every single person, things like poverty, development, and corruption. And at its absolute worst, this intense focus can create deep divisions, social tension, and sometimes, sadly, even violence.
So if there is one thing you need to burn into your brain for the exam, it's this. This is the key takeaway. It's not a simple one-way thing. It's a dynamic, two-way relationship. Caste influences politics? Absolutely. But politics also turns around and influences, shapes, and even redefines what caste means in the modern world. And that wraps up our deep dive into caste and politics. Hopefully, this gets you that much closer to feeling 100% ready for your exams. Hey, don't forget to check out our other explainers that cover the rest of this chapter. And listen, if you want full support, we're talking admissions help, notes, expert guidance for all your Class 10 subjects, get in touch with A1 Institute. The phone number is right there in the description. Thanks so much for tuning in.